one thing we didn't mention, failed to mention in the announcements, that this morning there'll be no teaching time. We do have a fellowship time and some food outside, but before we do that, we have the opportunity to, as we always do here at the Independence Reformed Bible Church, to ask for questions. While you're doing that, while you're thinking of a question, I want to wander over here and see if my little setup, everybody who's ever done this knows the terror I'm feeling right now, right? Let's see if this is going to work. I had this all figured out before. There it is. Okay, let's try this. There we go. Okay, I'm going to ask somebody thanks, John. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. I don't do this.
That's pretty good.
You see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
I can't make that any bigger. Yeah, so yeah, you folks here, of course, have to turn. Found this week, and this is a interactive map that charts the progress of the gospel. Now, we're not just talking about Protestants here. Let's just be clear on that. We are talking about Rome here as well. And we are talking about the Eastern Orthodox also a little bit. But this map is going to take us in a minute and a half, or whatever it is, from 1 AD all the way up to the present. And I want you to watch especially the progress of the gospel, the expansion, and also the contraction. So, hope you enjoy this. Takes about a minute and a half. Starts out. Now again, I'm sure that's not accurate in every single detail, but did you see the expansion, contraction, expansion? And right now in the West, we may be living in a time of contraction. But that doesn't mean the gospel cannot come back and take over once again. This great king who rose from the dead will have all enemies under his feet. Who was the first question? Oh yeah, thank you. We've been asked if you have a question, if you can raise your hand maybe a little bit higher. What happens is you raise your hand so that I can see it, but we have to be able to see it from the back. Thank you. Who was the first question? Good. I think. Model on the hot seat today, okay. That's it. Raise your hand real good. Comment.
More of a comment. Can you comment, Joel, on the significance, and maybe I'm putting you on the spot here, but significance, if you see any, of the fact that the curse began in a garden, and by the scriptural definition, that Christ was laid in a garden tomb, and the curse was ended in a garden? Can you speak to that? I totally put you on the spot there.
No, that's, I mean, I've seen that done. And it is emphasized that it was a garden there in the New Testament. Again, just like we had an emphasis on sitting on the stone, the garden emphasis is a lot greater. And we, not only that, but we know that the angels sang for joy at the creation. And we know the angels saw the fall. It was the angels then that begin to see the reverse of the fall there. And it is significant. See, let me say it this way. We make an error, I believe, when we limit the effects of Christ's salvation just to individual souls. We make an error. It's not just limited. He rules the world with truth and grace and makes the nations prove. Oh man, can't remember. The glories of his righteousness and wonders of his love. That's not the right one. It's the far as the curse is found. Yeah, and see that's what the writer Isaac Watts was talking about. Is that the effects of the curse are worldwide. The effects of the redemption are also worldwide, not limited. Man, what? Tell you what, getting old. No more let sins and sorrows grow, nor thorns infest the ground. He comes to make his blessings know far as the curse is found. And the writer there is saying, thorns are a result of the curse. This Christ is going to roll back even that curse. Thanks. Who else has a question or comment? Yes, we have a question right here. Thanks for raising your hand.
I heard it when you were talking and then thinking about that map. So when Christ conquers, is that talking about, every knee will bow and every tongue
Every time confess, sure enough.
So is that, or is this an influence through a society that he will conquer a nation, not every single soul, but the Christian influence will be there? You know what?
I think you're talking about the extent to which this is supposedly happening.
Right.
Or when we say every knee shall bow and every tongue confess, is that in some kind of other world other than this one?
And is it literal?
And not in
Every.
history. Yeah. Yeah. And does every mean every?
Yeah.
As we would understand it. I'm still working some of that out. But and Seth and I were talking about this week. I don't know if you've been following. I was able to do a little bit of research this week. Saw an article. I think I sent it to you, Ryan. I don't know if you got a chance to read that or not. There are some amazing things happen in the Islamic world. Amazing things going on. And I had a chance to read an article in World Magazine this week. If you get a chance to see it, I hope you do. A man who's happened to be Southern Baptist was commissioned to do a bunch of some studies on what's happening in the Islamic world. Now, again, we're talking about a small percentage here, I get it. But he found, he did traveling, and he found whole towns that have turned to Christ. Now, we are not used to thinking that. We're not. Are we? We think of people turning to Christ individually. We don't think of the whole areas turning to Christ. Seth mentioned that this morning. Whole Mormon congregations have turned to Christ. It's rare, but it has happened. But we know that whole towns, whole cities can turn to Christ. You've heard of Nineveh, right? There's a whole city that turned to Christ. And in that sense, and we must ask ourselves, if whole cities can turn to Christ, why not the whole world? And why not? So that's really where I am right now. When I hear every knee shall bow and every tongue confess, I think, why not? It certainly can be. If Christ can save one person, he can save them all. Why not? Question? Yes.
Can you tell us a little more about like the history of how we came to celebrate Easter and the name? Just a little history lesson, a lecture.
Little history lecture on that. Not really. Jack. Here's the thing about that, and you know, I don't know, John, if you want to jump in here or not, you can if you want.
Here to give a history lesson.
Okay, yeah. Here's the thing. I'm convinced of this, is that all religions, all false religion, are a perversion of what's true. And if they had 40 days weeping for Tammuz, or where'd they get 40 days from? So in other words, they get 40 days from Christianity. 40 days is a big thing in Christianity. With Christ, with Moses, that kind of a thing, 40 days is a big deal. And so I argue this way. Even if supposedly Christianity borrows something from a pagan religion, they're only taking back what was already borrowed from them prior. A good example is the whole Christmas thing. We've all heard it a million times, right? It was the son of the God King and all this stuff, and the early church borrowed from this pagan holiday on December 25th, right? Well, it turns out, Alvin Schmidt points out in his book, How Christianity Changed the World, that's just flat out not true. And we hear that repeated as dogma. Every Christmas, we hear that the Christians borrowed this from the pagans. Flat out not true. Turns out, the pagans borrowed it from the Christians. Turns out. You can read about it in Alvin Schmidt's book. So, I'm not that concerned about borrowing from the pagans. We're only taking back what's already ours. Who else has a question? What did the pagans ever come up with anyway on their own? Think about it. I mean, you ever notice, I don't want to get off on this too much, but have you ever noticed that the mosques look like the Eastern Orthodox churches? Ever notice that? Turns out the Muslims couldn't even build a mosque. They had to borrow the design off the Orthodox Christians that they destroyed. Think about that. You're Islamic and you can't even build a mosque on your own. You need to borrow even that off the Christians.